can see, I've been doing a little behind the scenes organizing. I've leveled the frame all up. I've completely burned in all the front suspension. I've got it sitting level on the ground at the right height that I want, at the rake I want. So what I did, as you can see, I've put the whole front clip on. I've got it semi-bolted together so that I know what's the furthest back I can put my engine and transmission. Now I've made some markings, I've chalked some string lines, and now I'm comfortable with where that all comes together, now that I have this all together. So you can see I also have the body up on my rack, so I'll be able to move that around and do body work once I get this engine transmission rear end thing all figured out with the chassis. I'd like to get the chassis completely finished and painted, and then I can throw a tarp over it and set it aside, and then get to work on the body work. So now that I have all this mocked up, I need to take it all back off and shoehorn that motor into this frame. Alright, as you can see, got the front clip off, got the engine and transmission shoehorned in here. Now I've got it covered up, because I'm going to just take a minute and tell a little story about what I chose to put in here. There are so many options when it comes to building a hot rod. With raking yards, I mean, you can go with a Hemi, a supercharger, twin turbos, V6s, V8s, or you can even put a Pinto 4-cylinder in here like the last guy did. I didn't want to go crazy with a Coyote motor or an LS. I mean, yeah, they're great motors. I started shopping around, just trying to think old school. What kind of old V8 engine could I put in this thing that has parts that are readily available? There's a lot of things you can do that are inexpensive to really build one up. Started shopping around classifieds, and man, I found this motor. It fits everything that I want to do. A lot of people might laugh at this particular engine, but for this car, it's 2,500 pounds. And some of the things that I'm going to be doing to this, I'm probably even shaving a couple hundred pounds off of that. The heavy suspension that was in this with the disc brakes, going away from those heavy drums, and going disc in the rear, really beefing this up. I don't need a whole lot of horsepower. And I stumbled onto this little package that the guy claims is pushing 400 horsepower, and looking at all the specs, I believe it, and it's got a stick shift behind it. And it was all together. Also had a rear end available, all of this drivetrain out of a 66 Mustang. I'm not a Ford guy. I've never built a Ford engine. I've toyed with them a little bit. Back when I was in high school and in college, did some tune-ups and things, clutches. So I know a little bit about them. The guy that built this motor, he built it for a Mustang. This whole drivetrain, rear end, transmission, everything is out of a 66 Mustang convertible. And once he got it all 400 horsepower and jamming the gears, it was going to rip that convertible in half. It was just too much for it. I ended up paying just over $3,000 for this engine. And the way he claimed it was built, well worth that price. And all the parts he was including with it made it very well worth that price. So just to backtrack just a little bit, when I looked at this motor, it was in the Mustang, and we took it for a drive, and it is a screamer. Man, this thing is fast. ton of horsepower, every bit of the 400 horsepower he claims it has. So as you normally do when you're buying something like this, let's negotiate. He wouldn't negotiate. He stood firm. He wanted $3,200 for this, but he was willing to give me the carburetor, the high torque starter, the alternator. He wanted to keep the power steering pump. He was throwing in the 4-speed transmission with all the linkage and the aluminum drive line. So once he said that, okay, sold. He wanted 1 week to pull it out and a deposit. I gave him $500 to hold it for me, and as soon as he had it out, give me a call and I'll come get it. So, sure enough, a week later, I show up. He's got it on his engine hoist, transmission, everything is attached, except the headers were off, the starter was off, the parts were off at the front. He had a bunch of parts in the box. We loaded it all in the back of my truck. As we're loading it, he loads a steel drive line into my truck. I said, where's the aluminum one? He said, oh no, you can't have that. I said, well, no, we agreed on that. Oh no, we didn't agree on that. So then I start looking through the box. Where's the alternator? Where's the starter? No, we didn't agree on that. Yes, we did. So then I start questioning, okay, what have I got myself into? I heard this thing run. It ran great. Normally, I would check the compression in something like this, see what the compression's. He told me there was a shop that built this. He gave me the name of the guy, the shop, and the phone number so I could verify how it was built. But I should have done more than that. Hopefully I don't have a problem, but I really... The guy was a cop. I trusted him. Nothing I can do about him going back on his word, changing his mind, but I still wanted it. So I went ahead and paid him. I could tell he felt a little bit bad about backing out on a few things, so he asked me, would you want an automatic transmission that I had from the Mustang? I said, sure, I'll take the automatic transmission. He says, and also while I'm at it, I've got the original valve covers, you can have those. He says, I have a rear differential, ring and pinion. Would you want that? Sure, I'll take it. So he ends up giving me extra parts. So in the end, I think it kind of balanced out, but it was disappointing. And then the headers just hammered. I mean, he took a sledgehammer to those headers, getting them in, getting them out, whatever he was doing, and just trashed them. So a $400 set of headers were useless. I'll have to buy a new set of that. So little things like that that make me question now. What are underneath these valve covers? Before I get into that more, let's just talk about what did I buy? What is this? This is a 289 out of a 66 Mustang. The 4-speed transmission and the shifter, the driveline, all of it is out of the same Mustang. What he claimed was that this motor was built by a shop. So what he told me was this engine was bored 30 over, put in race pistons, connecting rods, redid all the bearings, put in a roller cam with roller lifters, roller rocker arms, and Edelbrock E-Street aluminum heads with high compression. It's a fantastic package. The cam is a little radical. It had a bit of a shake to it. He built this to drag race and then realized a Mustang convertible is not a drag race body. It was just destroying the body of that car. And he was getting the speeds out of this that a convertible should have a roll cage and everything in it. So that's when he decided if I'm going to change everything on the Mustang, then I want bigger, better, faster. So Coyote motor, blah, blah, blah. He's going crazy. So this is a perfect package for me, for this car. So along with what you see here, he also threw in the carburetor. The carburetor is a Fitech, F-I-T-E-C-H, fuel injection throttle body. It has a built-in computer system. It's all self-learning. I'll show you a little bit more about that here in a minute. One of the ideas behind me doing something old school was so that I didn't have to get to all the wiring and computer systems and everything with transmissions. And well, this is such a simple unit. It's plug and play. It only adds a few sensors, a few wires. Yeah, I've got to change the gas tank. I have to put in a baffled gas tank and be able to pump enough fuel to the system. But there really wasn't that much money to make the conversions that I need for the fuel system for this. But let me just kind of go through everything cost-wise. You can get on Summit Racing and buy a short block for right around $2,000. So he never really got into what it cost to have him rebuild this block and do the boring and all the pistons and everything. But I'm going to say it's probably in that same $2,000 range. These Edelbrock heads are $1,100. Intake manifold, $200. The roller cam lifters and rockers was just over $800. The starter that I didn't get was $200, so that was a shame. The headers that he destroyed are $400, so that's a shame. It has the McLeod's clutch pressure plate. I did pull the transmission off to check it to make sure, and that is there. That was $240. That transmission on eBay, they're going for about $1,500. So that was a good deal to have that thrown in. The shifter itself, they go for around $500-600 for all the shifter and the linkage. The electronic Mallory ignition system, they go for about $100. But the carburetor, that's $900. So tax and license and everything is $1,000 for the carburetor. So all total, adding all this up, it's about $8,700. So for just over $3 grand, that was quite a deal. So I'm very excited with what I got, and I didn't have to build it. That's even better. So let me show you the carburetor. This one is set up for right around up to 400 horsepower, which this is pushing. It's a self-learning carburetor, so it's just plug and play. You put it in. It has a little handheld gadget instead of having to hook it up to a laptop computer. You put in your specifications, and it just starts setting everything up. It self-learns, and the throttle response, the air fuel mixtures, the oxygen sensors and everything that it has. I mean, it tracks the temperature of your coolant, the temperature of the engine, your oil pressure. Everything is tied in, so if you lose the oil pressure, it shuts off. So now that I have it sitting in place, you can see I have the oil pan setting right on the cross member with a spacer. When I put the front end on, put on the air cleaner, the carburetor, everything fits perfectly underneath the hood. So I can actually keep that front sump. It was one of the worries that I had about putting in a Ford. Yeah, you can change that oil pan to a rear sump and lower this motor down a little bit. And as you can see, the filter is really tight too. So I'll have to run a smaller filter, or even maybe put a remote filter on it. But I was worried, like I say, that this wasn't going to set down far enough without changing that oil pan. But it's perfect. So I'll be able to mount my motor mounts right in this area. You can see, nice header job, eh? Just get out a bigger hammer. You can see the summit intake. It has all of the electronic sensors for the electronic carburetor, fuel injection. Also has another here on the back for other temperature sensors. When he asked me if I wanted the automatic transmission that he had, I of course said yes, because I might need to do a automatic in the Jeepster, which I might, because as you can see, this is all going to have to be modified because it's all too tight. I need to lift this up into the floor a little bit more so that the shifter will even work. I don't know if I want to cut all that up. If I can figure out cutting it minimally, just cutting off like this and bringing all this up, then I can keep all the lower structure so that I don't damage all of this. I just really want to have that stick shift. And then the headers, I can get another set of headers and they will go out through the frame there. I'll have to rebuild that rear mount. So yeah, it's coming along. It's pretty exciting. So let's go ahead and take one of these valve covers off and double check and make sure those rocker arms are in here. So what do you think? Any bets? Yeah, they're there. They are very nice pieces. They're full roller ends. Just for the sake that these are there, I guess I can trust that it's got a roller cam and roller lifters too, as well as the roller rockers. So I'm just noticing too, ARP bolts. Those ARP bolts are expensive too. So yeah, it was built right. So now I just need to figure out exactly where the motor mounts mount to the side of the frame, get that set up, and then decide whether I'm going to keep the stick shift or go to an automatic. This came with a stick. It's just, I think it'd be a cool stick. But leave me a comment. What do you think? Stick shift, automatic? Love to hear from you. Thanks for watching.